Walt Disney World is the most magical place on earth, right? For millions of non-disabled humans, it certainly can be. But if you have a disability, let me rephrase that actually. Hold on. If you can explain your disability and how it prevents you from standing in a long line, it truly can be a magical place. Unfortunately, for a large percentage of the disability community, that is not the case. From heartwarming stories to shocking denials, the truth behind Disney's Disability Access Pass will surprise even you. Plus, why is there so much hate and anger towards the disability community right now? And when I say hate, I mean true, unadulterated hatred, full of some of the worst things being said online. Stay tuned as we dive into the real story behind the headlines. Ahoy hoy everyone, welcome to Fantasyland News. If you're new here, don't forget, subscribe button is down there, ring the notification, whatever else I'm supposed to say. I don't know, I'm not good at selling myself anyway. Today, we're uncovering the history of the Disability Access Pass, or DAS Pass, here at Disney World. I know it's also available at Disneyland, so this probably concerns you also. We're going to talk about why it changed, who's abusing the system, and what's being done to fix it. The history of DAS, if you will. Let's get started with the basics. Disney's official Disability Access Service, or DAS, started on October 9th, 2013. It replaced the Guest Assistant Card, which many claimed to have been being highly abused. But was it abuse, or was it just overhyped stories? I know I'm going to go into a lot of hate comments we've been getting, and trust me, we will get into some of the positive stories also. All this is not new. Back in the early 2000s, Disney had a service in place called the Guest Assistance Card. This was the precursor to the Disability Access Service system that we know now. Guests could go to the guest services and explain their needs, and if approved, the cast member would give that person a card. On the card, Disney would stamp your needs, such as an alternative entrance, meaning the guest couldn't use stairs and could go through the exit lane. Other stamps included wheelchair or stroller use. There was no quote-unquote proof needed to receive this card. You know what I'm trying to say, people. According to Disney, this pass was supposed to be for people who truly needed the extra time. Kids who may be on the spectrum, or someone with PTSD, or someone who had a neurodivergence or cognitive disability. Apparently, it wasn't supposed to be used for everyone, which unfortunately, like in society, scammers gonna scam, yo. And they did, in fact, abuse this, and it got so bad that the national press got a hold of some of these stories, which spread this false narrative that everyone who used the GAC card was abusing the system. Congratulations, thanks for having us do this. Despite the claims of abuse, many people genuinely needed and used the old system. Yet Disney felt the need to change due to public pressure and media portrayals. Let's talk about the reality of the abuse. Let's be honest. There was absolutely some abuse. We all heard about it, and some of us even witnessed it. Stories of people faking disabilities to cut in line or to cut lines was rampant. Stories of New York City parents renting a wheelchair-bound person for the day. In a major expose from a paper in New York City, they spoke to a mother who ratted out the whole thing, explaining how while most, quote, regular families had to wait for hours to ride certain attractions, they only had to wait a couple of minutes at the exit of the attraction to be let onto the rides. Vacation planners and tour guides were in charge of selling these services. Now, mark that tour guides mention. We're going to go back to them in a few minutes. Were they the only guilty parties? And seriously, there was many guilty parties about this, and some who just got wrapped up in all the hype. We read stories, and friends of ours covered the whole GAC card schemes going on. Folks were selling their GAC cards. Disney themselves, or their cast members at least, were handing them out like grandma handing out hard candies when you saw her. And seriously, did anyone else have a grandma who just carried around those nasty hard candies? I mean, except for the butterscotch ones. Oh man, those butterscotch ones were so good in the little yellowish colored wrapper candies. Yeah, anyway, I digress. Sorry. Also, some of the blame falls onto, and it really does, and I know this is going to be hard to say, but it does fall into those in the disability community that were selling themselves as tour guides. There was a lot of blame to go around. Stories started spreading in April of 2013 about a massive change coming to the guest assistant card. And by October of 2013, Disney themselves finally sent out a letter and announced on the Disney Parks blog that these were changing. One of the things that we have found out was New York Post had one time posted about this woman hiring handicapped tour guides so their kids could cut the line. How real this story was or not, I don't know, because in a sentence, my daughter waited 1 minute to get onto It's a Small World. The other kids had to wait 2.5 hours. Does anybody else ever remember waiting in line 2.5 hours for It's a Small World? I'm sorry, even on the busiest day, I don't think I've seen it above 45 minutes. And back in 2013, I'm going to say it was 20 minutes at tops. Somebody was just trying to scam the system. Anyway, in the letter from Walt Disney World, they said, "Dear friends, the park holds a cherished place in the hearts of millions of guests who visit us each year. We know this is especially true for those of you who have loved ones with a disability. For many families, what would be impossible elsewhere is not only possible, but magical at our parks and resorts. We are proud to play such an important role in so many lives. Unfortunately, our current program for providing access to attractions for guests with disabilities has been abused and exploited to such an extent that we are no longer able to effectively sustain it in its present form. After careful consideration and with the needs of our guests with disabilities in the foremost concern, we are modifying the current program." Keep that in mind, because not only do they say that then, but again, a few years later, last month or in February when they announced these changes, they say almost the exact same thing. So now it has been exactly 10 years to the month when we heard about the changes coming to the DAS Pass. And we were seeing almost the exact same response. Many people in the community are up in arms, scared and worried, and just basically not understanding where they will fall under the new guidelines. This happened in 2013. This happened again in 2024. It doesn't really change that much. Back in 2013, we heard all about how this seems fair. Let's hope people do not figure out how to abuse this system. The new Disability Access Service was supposed to cut down on the abuse. No longer could cards be sold to others. The way Disney did this was by shortening the time you could have a pass, 60 days for annual pass holders, 14 days with guests with tickets. Disney also added your photo to the pass. What Disney says again is the abuse by the guest, not blaming tour guides. Again, we will get to those sons of bitches later. Just hold your tour flags in your hands and stand over there, Mr. Tour Guide. However, the media often got it wrong, focusing on sensational stories that don't represent the majority. There were millions of families and people in the disability community who could finally go out and spend a day at Walt Disney World or Disneyland because of this card. Families with kids on the spectrum finally had a chance of going to Disney, sharing their love, making that connection with their kids, and seriously just enjoying the most magical place on earth. The option of using the card was well needed and deserved. Of course, this was in the time of Fast Pass, so the outrage by people who are not disabled wasn't as bad as it is right now. The biggest complaint we heard was that if you had the GAC card, you could still get Fast Passes and not have to worry about a limited number of Fast Passes in one day. So, what happened? The change, I'll call this. On October 9th, 2013, the change took place. We were now in the DAS Pass era. Speaking of era, are we overusing that word right now? Like, seriously, did T-Swizzle make that the Time Magazine word of the year? Not Time Magazine, Webster's Dictionary word of the year. It's era. Let's just go with that. The new Disney Pass or Disability Access Service card was just that. A card with your photo and space on the back for the guest to go to a ride cast member, get a return time, which was equal to the standby queue time, and then wait outside the normal queue for the time to show up. And when it did return, you had to return to the attraction or the ride, enter the Fast Pass queue, and ride the attraction. Guests could only have one return time at a time using the DAS Pass, but guests could still get Fast Passes for other attractions. That's where some unfairness started to creep in. That's just example one. So you can see where this is going already. Of course, people figured out how to exploit it. This new system, and by 2015, blogs and tour guides, I swear tour guides, I am going to rip y'all apart in a few minutes, so you just hold your horses. And everyday guests had to figure out how to become approved for these services. Somewhere in that time, between the years of 2013 and 2015, word started to spread that the magical words to use were IBS and autism and PTSD. No more questions were asked. It was instant approval if you said those three words. Cast members in the park were not allowed to ask for a diagnosis. No proof was needed. Again, as clans out there figured out how to ruin a good thing for the disability community and make it all about themselves, which led to an overhaul of the DAS system again. The rollout of Magic Band Plus, the My Disney Experience app, and of course Genie Plus all helped the DAS Pass system evolve. No longer were physical cards going to be handed out. No more going ride to ride, getting a return time, and then when the time was right, going back to the ride and checking in. With the My Disney Experience app, you could now just be on your phone and schedule your next return time. You were still limited to only one ride at a time, but no longer was there Fast Pass. So you basically were getting services like Genie Plus, but not Genie Plus. With Lightning Lane and Genie Plus came the major changes that happened just over a year ago. Guests now had to call in and live chat to speak directly with a DAS cast member. They could do it 30 days prior to their trip. When and if you were approved, you could schedule 2 return times per day for your family during that live chat. Then, on your park days, you already had your 2 return times. Then you could schedule an ever-revolving ride rotation. Ride 1, get a return time. Ride another, get a new return time. If you want to know what all the news... Seriously, if you want to know what all the new rules are, please go back to the video that you're seeing on the screen right now, which is just one video back. It talks about all the changes and the whole process that is used as of March 20th, 2024, including new rules, how to go about it, how to use My Disney Experience, and all the other attractions. And then I rant for a little bit. So there you go. This is the newest video. Go back and watch that. It'll tell you and explain the whole process. I'm not going through it again. Let's move on. Segment 4, I'll call this. People's comments and feedback. People's comments online show a huge divide. Some feel the system is fair, while others believe it's being exploited. Why do others feel the need to comment and criticize those who use the pass? It is a clash of entitled versus the entitled. Both sides feel like they deserve something. Now, before I touch a third rail here, I want to give an explanation of entitled versus entitled, because people are using these terms wrong. That word, entitled, has become a hot button talking point for politicians across the country, and it is now dividing us with how we speak to each other. I am not calling out any political party. I'm not stepping in that at all. Y'all believe what you want to believe, but it's the truth that the word entitled is being used improperly. It is used incorrectly, sometimes even dishonestly. It truly has two meanings that are sometimes conflated. There is a legal term. Someone is entitled to something because of some other circumstance, and this entitlement is written into law. Someone who has lost their job through no fault of their own and is otherwise qualified is entitled to unemployment benefits. Tax money has been allocated specifically to be given to people in that situation. I think the other meaning may come from, I believe it's psychological, to say that someone is entitled means that they believe they deserve some sort of privileges, even if there is no legal entitlement involved. The confusion leads to things like rants I've seen and shared online. Someone takes umbrage at Social Security payments referred to as entitlements. The argument is, my Social Security is not an entitlement. I paid into that fund my entire working life, and I deserve it. Well, you're right and wrong. You do deserve it, and that is an entitlement. The recipient is legally entitled to money exactly because he paid into it. So, what does this have to do with anything? I've seen people screaming at each other, calling disabled people entitled, and not in a positive way. This brings me to those devils of exploitative people, the third-party tour guides. Thought I forgot about them, didn't ya? Nope. Thought I was just making a joke? Nope. I have like 4 paragraphs written, and I'm going to burn a bridge while I'm crossing it and see if I can skip to the other side, all while singing Marvin Gaye's Let's Get It On. Why that song? No clue. It was just the first song that popped in my head when I was writing this all out. Anyway, what is it with the tour guides? Remember in 2013 and at the start of this video, I told you the story about tour guides in Florida were selling front-of-the-line services? What they were doing was selling handicapped or disabled guests who had a GAC. Disney just changed the system and blamed the disabled community for abusing the system. Nothing was changed except the past, which hurt the disability community like they normally get blamed and hurt. You would figure by now we would be used to being the Disney punching bag. Anyway, third-party tour guides were the leading cause of this abuse, selling the service for $100 up to $1,000 a day, and Disney did nothing about them. The DAS Pass evolved, and of course, third-party tour guides figured out how to exploit the new system almost immediately, selling the service for the past 10 years since the DAS changed. Only this time, they were the ones who had their name on the DAS Pass itself, with their image, so they could sell themselves to the families instead of hiring a disabled person to do the dirty work for them. I know what you're going to say. You don't know what I'm talking about. But I do. I go to Disney World 4 or 5 days a week. I knew some of these third-party tour guides personally. I watched how they operated. I watched them have a new family every few days with them, and they were always going through the new Lightning Lane lines, even for smaller, non-Genie Plus rides. These tour guides would change the names of their guests to whatever family had paid them and then DAS pass the whole day with that family. So, who is to blame on this one? Tour guides? The people who thought it was okay to purchase this service? Well, Disney took 11 years to finally take real action. Back in December of 2023, we started hearing and writing about third-party tour guides going to scan into the parks and being met with guest relation cast members and Orange County Sheriff's Department, even being given a lifetime ban from the whole property. Basically, you could not be on the whole of Walt Disney World, which, by the way, is the size of Manhattan or larger. They will never be able to set foot on the grounds of Walt Disney World again, not just the park, but the whole world. And F them anyway. They all deserve it. They weren't just exploiting rich families or people who wanted special services. They exploited the disability community. But yes, they were exploiting loopholes and Disney and the families who purchased the service. If only those families had spoken to a reputable person somewhere, they could have been trained and learned how the Disney experience worked instead of being sold a bill of goods by these third-party tour guides. So, they're out of here. Thank you for finally solving that. But don't blame the disability community for the actions of some horrible people. Anyway, segment 5. Let's call this Media Portrayals. The media plays a huge role in shaping our perception. Basically, if it bleeds, it leads, right? Sensationalism often overshadows the real stories. Look at any of the Disney media sites, any and every single one. And I'm going to include my own on this, because I'm not saying I didn't write articles about it, because I did. I'm writing because I live here and I go to the parks a lot. I love spreading the Disney love, but I also still like to make sure people see the good and the bad. At the end of the day, these sites are made to do one thing: sell the dream of living here and make you, the audience, want to come here on vacation. They hype up all the abuse and the bad stories for clicks. Not one has done a positive news article about the new DAS system. They don't talk about how the system has helped a family with a child who would never have been able to ride with their family's favorite attraction. Had it not been for DAS, these families would not be here. But no, you can't write about that. Just some lady from Illinois who was able to make a TikTok about how she said that she got IBS, got DAS, and kept posting that she got front of the line, which, by the way, is not the case. One bad apple should not spoil the bunch. So, I want to address that past issue. This TikToker kept on saying that she got to front of the line access. There is no such thing as front of the line access unless you are part of a special Make-A-Wish family who 100% deserve it. I'll fight anybody who says they don't. And the other one is families from Give Kids the World, another partner of Make-A-Wish and Disney that grants wishes to children who need it and deserve it. So, there is no such thing as front of line access for anybody anymore except for that limited scope. What you have to do is you have to wait the exact same time as the standby line that is on the boards at the time. Spaceship Earth says 25 minutes. You don't get to go to the front of the line and skip anything and go to the exit and get on the line. No, you have to wait 25 minutes. Simple as that. I'm not saying you still can't go through the exit line if you have a mobility issue and have problems climbing stairs. Climbing scares? I don't even know what. My mouth is just saying whatever it wants. Anyway, y'all understand what I'm trying to say on that. I'm going to move on. Opinions versus facts. Segment 6. There is a big difference between opinions and facts. Facts state that Disney is using the abuse or the disabled community for using the past. They are blaming the community for abuse or using the past. When Disney says that we have seen a 5% increase in people using DAS over the past 4 years, and then go on to say things like 70% of our lightning lanes are being clogged up by DAS users, which is slowing down the experience of those who have paid for Genie Plus, what they are doing is blaming others for themselves and their own mistakes and their own making. They could have fixed this properly years ago by listening to the community of disabled people who go to the parks on a daily basis or weekly basis or yearly basis, or just listening to the community as a whole. They could have shut off and realized that one news story about a rich mom buying a disabled person for the day was not the whole community. They should have been educated enough to read between the lines and know it was sensationalized. So, what's the truth and how do we change the narrative? John Krasinski had a show called Some Good News, showed us that positivity can change minds. What can Disney and we as a community do to fix the real issues? That is hard to say and even harder for some to understand. Not every disability is the same. Not everyone deserves the Disability Access Service Pass. The system is built around how standing in a long line will keep you and others from enjoying the Disney parks experience. If you have a true disability backed up by a medical professional and have an issue with lines, yes, you should have it. If you are dealing with something like Crohn's, you have fought for our country, you have end-of-life care, families with children who are neurodivergent. I mean, seriously, almost 3 in 5 Americans can be considered disabled by the Social Security guidelines. We, as humans, need to know when to say enough. We should be able to call out others who may be exploiting the community as a whole, because these people give a black eye to those who truly need it. And yes, there are people out there in the world who truly deserve it. They deserve to use DAS. And for those folks standing on your soapbox saying, well, I have PTSD or I have XYZ, but I don't ever use it, that doesn't mean you handle being disabled better or worse. In fact, you should be doing everything you can to help yourself. Everyone understands that some people can and some people can't help themselves as much as others. But your personal experience doesn't mean that others can or want to do the same. You are no better than those outside the disability community telling us how to live our lives. I am glad and proud you don't need to take meds every day because you do yoga or stretch or work out or go for a 10-mile bike ride next to a clown car. Someone else may need it because the chemical imbalance is out of control and is keeping that person from living with demons in their head. No amount of running alongside 19 clowns in a car is going to help. This is called a hidden disability or unseen disability. I wish I had better wording for it, and I just can't think of it right now, but it's in there. Just because people dress up in a trench coat during summer months in Florida doesn't make them a better human being. It just makes them individually them. I would think that's weird, but I'm not judging them for it. So why do people in the disability community judge each other on the levels of how disabled you are? And there's no cohesiveness. There's no coming together. At the end of the day, even I should learn how to follow this rule and stop judging others and blaming others for how to live and what they do. Stop commenting or hating on the disabled community and making them the scapegoat for all the DAS situation and problems. We need to come together, figure out what real change looks like, and it starts with the narrative, making people understand why it is needed in the first place, to make our fellow human beings live their lives with the same advantages we all have. We all deserve a chance to spend our money where we want to. We all deserve a vacation to Disney, if you can afford it. So, Universal Studios has their own system, and it's backed up by the IBCCES accessibility card, which could be a model for improvement. Also, clear language on the website would help, including it would probably give people wanting to exploit the system ammunition. It's going to come out of my mouth, people. I'm frustrated right now. I'm angry about this. But that also brings up a solution that we can all have, and that is holding people accountable. These people need to be held accountable. Anybody who exploits or uses this DAS system needs to be held accountable. Yes, Disney has if you are caught cheating the system, you will be banned for life. But we, as a society, need to hold these people responsible. I'm not a lawyer, but there should be criminal charges brought up for faking a disability and receiving services. We are so quick to do this so-called cancel culture war thing, whether right or wrong, but we should be free to figure out who abused the system and call them out. Hold that person accountable for their actions. We should also train the cast members better. I am not throwing cast members under the bus. What I'm saying is having better, qualified people dealing with DAS. Give them true, proper training. Spend the money to educate them so they can make a proper decision. Help them better serve the community. Heck, they may end up helping everyone out in the long run. Finally, again, taking accountability for ourselves while also advocating for change. I've seen amazing things done by this disabled community. And all it took was for one person to want that change. They were able to find others who also wanted to make things better and fair for everyone. And not in everyone gets a trophy way either, but in a tangible, life sucks sometimes, so let's help each other out and make the world a better place to live in. In the end, it's all about balancing the needs and fairness. Please, continue this conversation and let me know in the comments below. Have you experienced this system? I want to know your thoughts. Thank you all so much for watching and listening, especially if you made it this far. Congratulations, you made it to the end. Thank you from all of us here at fantasylandnews.com. We appreciate it. You can find us at fantasylandnews.com or thefanaticsblog.com for all your latest in Disney parks news and Walt Disney Company entertainment news. Please like, subscribe, share this out, all the normal things you have to say. And again, go to Fantasyland News on Instagram. Please go to our Facebook page.